As we head into the holiday season, we'd like to spotlight a few nonprofits in our area. We'll learn more about the Angel Mounds Historic Site, the Ozanam Shelter, the Evansville Wartime Museum, and Evansville Civic Theater. That's next on WNIN Newsmakers. Welcome to WNIN Newsmakers. I'm April Nading. This past weekend, Angel Mounds opened up their new exhibit area. The renovation took 2 years to complete and offers a more updated perspective on the historic site. We visited the new facility last Friday, and here's a peek at the new exhibits.
So we are in the new Interpretive Center at Angel Mounds. We did a complete redo of it. Everything that was there in the past has gone, and we've put a new experience in here for our visitors to get a new perspective on the mounds.
This is the first new exhibit installed at Angel Mounds in the last 20 years, and it's the first time it's being told from the native perspective rather than the archaeologist perspective. And the archaeologist perspective will be included in there because it helps tell the story, but we've consulted with numerous tribes that are possibly descended of the people that lived here, to get their perspective on what the site means to them and what it would have meant to the people back in those days as well.
You know, in the past it's always been just kind of centered around artifacts, but this is because it's a tribal peoples and a living tribal peoples. It's showing people today and how we are actively involved in our communities and how we're keeping our traditions alive. And I think that's really important to see. So you have the present, and then you can go out and to look at the mounds and see the past.
Actually just show amazing new pieces. Throughout our exhibit, not only here in Angel Mounds, but honestly throughout the whole system, new art is something that we always reach for as an interpretive tool because it adds another layer, it adds a modern face on things. And so in this case, it allowed us to offer a lot of fabric, which does not survive that long. So there's some practical things in there, but really saying, you know, here's a modern take, here's some inspiration, here's what things either could have looked like or what modern people are still inspired by in creating their new works. Previous experience here at Angel Mounds was fairly low tech. It was more diorama based. We don't reach for technology all the time, but in this case, it was really important to have some elements like a lot of video. All the video was commissioned for this new experience. Our map table over here, gives you a new perspective on the mounds that you couldn't get before and shows some of those alignments.
One of the impetus for this was several years ago, archaeoastronomers began looking at the site and how the mounds are placed. And now we know we have a summer solstice alignment, a winter solstice alignment, a Milky Way alignment. We know where the moon's going to be at its farthest northern point and its farthest southern point now. And it's not just a vacant field anymore. We know this thing is still working after 1,000 years, and so that got us thinking more and more about the tribal perspective of this place and what it meant to them and what those alignments and all that meant to people then and now as well.
Well, the cosmology is really important because I think people think of Indians as the bare-breasted warrior riding across the plains, and seeing the fact that these mounds are more than just mounds of dirt. They actually were able to predict the seed planting seasons. They studied the stars, and that they're actually kind of cylindrical systems. So that's important. It puts the fact that Indian people knew science and math and how to lay things out, and as well as the idea that these were habitation zones where people were growing up and raising their children just like they do today. This gives us an opportunity to learn about our past. I mean, it's a reciprocal kind of exchange where we're trading our tribal knowledge and what we have survived, our knowledge that we've survived with.
Place is important for American history to understand the great depth of time that we had in American history. So Native American history goes back, thousands and thousands of years. So Angel was established by about 1100 AD, and it kind of hit its fluorescence at about 1250 AD. And by 1450, people had kind of moved on. They had different life ways, as many folks do. So I think one of the most important things is how well this place is preserved and the opportunity that gives us.
We have a large interactive map in the middle of the room now that we'll talk about these alignments and how the property developed. And it's all, touch-based, so you can get different components of what the map's all about. We'll talk about the alignment in another section of the site. We have modern or contemporary Native American artists things on display that they were inspired by the site to create these items also. And we'll still have the artifacts that people are coming to see as well.
I encourage people to come here because they're going to see something really different, especially if they had been here before. They're going to see a very different presentation.
Yeah, I say it's a touchstone to the past. I've worked at many historic sites over the years, but this one has a vibe, a feel to it. I tell someone there's a spirit to the place, and you can actually sense that when you're out on the site.
I have to say that this museum, Angel Mounds, the historic site, that I go to a lot of archaeological sites, and a lot of them are orphans. They're not well funded, they're not well attended, but I think the community thinks of this as part of their own. And it is well attended, it is active, and when I look at other sites where they're having there's financial struggles and their exhibits are out of date and things like that, that it's a real jewel that you have in your community. And I think that's, it's unique. And I like to see it happen more often.
Next up, we have Meredith Marshall, Museum Administrator for the Evansville Wartime Museum. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So tell me a little bit about the Evansville Wartime Museum for people who may not be familiar with it.
Yeah, so it's the story of Evansville during wartime, not only the soldiers that went overseas to fight primarily World War I, World War II, and after that, but also the efforts that people on the home front made, production. We built planes, bullets, refurbished tanks, built the LST ships that landed on D-Day. So it's really telling how this city came together and pulled off quite the production for the war.
So what would people find when they go in there? Are there like interactive things or?
It's sort of a combination. So we do have this, you sort of start in the home front and you learn about what people were doing here, and then you move into life during the war for people, going through rationing, having to, figure out gardening and all sorts of things to survive during those times. And then you move into the soldiers that were fighting overseas. We're working on adding some more interactive exhibits, but we've just recently added a Holocaust exhibit that tells a story following sort of the timeline of the Holocaust itself, as well as the Recknick family that survived through the ghettos and moved to Evansville and created a life here afterwards.
So what do you think makes the Wartime Museum unique?
I think it's just sort of tells this local story that you wouldn't have known otherwise, that it's not just a war museum, but it's the wartime museum because it focuses on all sides of life during that period.
So it's not just the ammunition and the weapons, it's the whole
It's
gamut.
the women in the workforce, it's the Rosie the Riveters that we hear so much about. It's sort of creating this new way of life that, things really changed for everyone around World War II, and so many jobs were created here in Evansville, and that per capita, Evansville created more produced more items for the war effort than any other city in the U.S.
So, were there women in Evansville working as Rosie, like Rosie the Riveter type thing?
Working in the shipyards and, building the planes that were being flown over Europe and other parts of the world at that time.
I don't know why I didn't think of women here doing that. I always think of them in other places. So that's very interesting to learn something like that. Now, I know you recently had some storm damage, that the museum was actually closed for a little while. I mean, how's the progress on that going?
Well, the museum's reopened. We reopened August 3rd. We had some significant wind damage that took off about a third of the roof back in April and damaged one of the hangar doors. So right now, the roof is back on. People can go through the full museum. I believe the hangar door is getting repaired in the next week or two, and I think we will be finishing 100% with painting and things like that sometime in January. But we're working around. It was important for us to reopen for our community, and so it's great to invite everyone back in.
So none of the actual displays were damaged, or?
No, I believe the only significant damage to the objects in the museum was that hangar door got blown inward, and it pushed a vehicle into the wing of the plane. And so there was a little bit of damage to one of the wing flaps, but it's been sent off and repaired and is back up again.
Oh, good. Now, what kind of events do you maybe have coming up that the museum will be hosting?
Yeah, so we have our Planes, Trains, and Santa Claus event coming up on December 8th. And while they are getting the sleigh repaired and ready for Christmas Eve, Mr. and Mrs. Claus will be arriving by plane at the EVV airport, and they will be available for the children to meet and greet with. And then there will be model trains set up throughout the museum for enthusiasts with that, and it will just be a really great event for the whole family. And again, that's December 8th. And then that's sort of the big one that we have towards the end of the year here, but we'll be all decked out for Christmas.
So let's talk about when Santa and Mrs. Claus arrive. Is that something where the kids will be out waving as they arrive, or how?
We should be able to have people out on the airport the apron. We'll have some, ability to see them as they land, and we'll have the doors hopefully fully open for our visitors to see that. Yeah.
How will they find out more about that?
I would just say follow us on our Facebook page.
Okay.
We are constantly putting out information about our upcoming events. And then we've been doing these lunch and learns for the 55 and older community in Evansville for the last several months. And in December, they'll be moving back to the museum from our temporary VFW location.
And what happens at those?
We have speakers that talk on different topics for members, and then we invite them we provide lunch for those people as well. So upcoming, I know we have one about, we'll be interviewing a 101-year-old World War II pilot out of North Carolina, and it'll be a virtual interview there at the museum. That is going to be on December 12th, but we'll be doing the lunch and learns at the museum the first, second, and third Thursdays of December.
Okay.
To the
No, one more thing. What are some ways that maybe the community could help your organization?
I would say the biggest thing is that we are always running into people who don't know that we're here, and we've been open to the public for about 7 years now, and just getting our name out there and bringing your friends and family to come see the museum really helps us out. And there's always some things that change over time. So like I said, we just added this new exhibit, so there's always something new to see when you come back. And really, that's the best way that you can help us out.
All right. Well, thanks so much. And it sounds like you have the fun little Santa thing coming up.
Thank you.
Now we have Danielle Scott, Theater Administrator of Evansville Civic Theater, joining us. Thank you so much for being here.
Of course.
And I know you're new to the position, so tell me how that came about.
Yes, so I moved back in July, and it's just kind of rolled from there. I knew someone was like, hey, you should apply for this. I was like, oh, yeah, I love the theater. That's where I got most of my knowledge from and my experience in working it. And I was like, yeah, let's go for it. So they had this theater administrator job that popped up, and we all just got along really well, and it's been wonderful ever since. And, we keep going, moving forward and working, so.
So here you are.
Here I am.
So you said you got your master's. Was that in theater?
It wasn't theater, it was in acting. So I got that at the Catholic University of America, and I went to USI for theater. So it's kind of being back in the place where it all began.
Right. So did you act in Civic Theater before?
No,
but-
I just finished Rope, and I was also doing box office, and I was in the show. So we closed that a week ago, and it's just been lovely.
Well, that's awesome. Now tell me about Civic Theater itself. What's the mission, or what is it they do exactly?
Yeah, so right now we're actually moving into our season 100.
Oh my gosh.
Evansville Civic Theater has been around for 100 years, and we are working on revitalizing our mission statement, mostly just to make sure that we're following through with meeting the community and engaging with the community. And that's exciting to be like, okay, how can we take further steps to make sure that we're doing what we need to do? Our mission statement talks about education and a high standard for art and a high caliber. So we're working on revamping we're working on programs into our next season that are educational, that also work for students and adults. We're also working towards the underground. That is our underground series. It broaches on topics that are mature, and it opens up dialogue for the community. And our main stage is more family friendly, so we like to involve everyone that is in our community to audition. It's just lovely.
Now, how many productions do you usually do a year?
We have 4 right now, and that's been wonderful. We have a bit of time in between each show to just make sure we can meet rehearsal standards and then our show. And it's been at Benjamin Bossie High School, so that's where we've been for the past few years.
So I know you're going to be moving to the Coliseum. Is that correct? Are you still planning on that, or?
You know, that is a great question. At this point, we're more of working on our relationship with Bossie, and no matter where we find ourselves permanently stationed, I think our focus right now is to ensure that we are meeting the standards that we want to see in the arts around us, and just reconnecting with how we started 100 years ago to now, and ensuring that we create a great foundation for future seasons.
So are you planning on any kind of 100-year celebration, or what do you?
I think we're trying to work on something that will be super fun, and we're still thinking about it and figuring out what would work best.
So I know you're new to the Civic Theater, but what do you think what attributes to them being able to be around for 100 years?
You know, that's a great conversation piece to have. It's mostly about the community. I think the arts are just so important and vital. I mean, we're seeing that with our Next Wave education program with Once Upon a Mattress that is coming up. That's directed by Alex Lugers. And we just see all of this passion and work and dedication for the arts with everyone who volunteers with us. And I think that's how we've been able to maintain this 100-year season. And we've been working hard to keep up and make sure that, you know, everyone feels like they have a home at Civic.
And which is really exciting for you, I'm sure.
It is. It's very exciting. I'm learning a lot really fast.
Now, what are some of the ways maybe the community can help with Civic Theater?
I know that how we work is based on volunteers, and we have a volunteer program. We have a Facebook page, and you can also contact us at evvcivic.org, and we'll put you on our volunteer list. And we have people who help build the sets, who do load in, load out, who help paint, create props, costumes. We have people who are interested in directing and acting. So if people are passionate about something or want to learn more, we're like, yes, please hang out with us and hang out with Evansville Civic Theater. So
I'm guessing that admission to Civic Theater then helps with paint, I mean, the props, that kind of stuff. Is that
right? So a lot of us, also part of the board, we all help to make sure that everything kind of runs smoothly and that, you know, everything's taken care of, so that we have a great set that works with the cast that's also working so hard. And it's definitely a team effort.
So best way to get information about Civic Theater?
Yes, so you can definitely follow us on socials. So we have our Facebook page, and then Instagram, and our website. I think Facebook, there's a lot more information that gets put on there, so definitely follow that one.
All right, well, thanks so much. It sounds pretty exciting. Good luck to you.
Thank you so much.
Next, we'll be talking to Executive Director of the Ozanam Shelter, Larry Cornett. Thank you so much for being here. Now, tell me a little bit about some of the services provided by Ozanam.
Yeah, what Ozanam is actually a temporary homeless shelter for the temporarily homeless families. And we have people that come in that have children anywhere from just newborn all the way up to 17 years old, and we will house them. We have 18 rooms, and we feed them 3 meals a day. And these are people trying to get back on their feet and also to keep their families together. That's one of the main things. They do not want them to go into the foster care system. They want to try and keep their children. They can't be living in their cars out on the street with their children. So we make a home for them for anywhere from 45 to 100 days, and we give them extensions if they're working and to getting close to getting housed. So we really work at trying to keep them at our shelter and get them housed within a short period of time.
So you said you have 18 rooms. Does that mean you actually accommodate 18 families?
That is correct.
Okay, and then so are you usually at capacity or how?
We are. We're always at capacity, which is a real sad state. But in the city, we're the only family shelter. So the only one that will take men with their children. We've got men there on their own with their children. Mom, you never know what the case might be. Mom just isn't in the picture anymore for whatever reason. And so dad's trying to keep that family unit together and not have the kids go into foster care or anything. So we're really trying to house these people and keep them healthy and keep them thinking about their future with their kids.
Is it more men with families,
It's
or
both.
is it just okay?
It's both men and women with their families, with their children, or men with their children, or women with their children.
Right.
We have a majority probably women with their children.
Okay.
But we do have quite a few families with the men and women.
Now, how do you determine who is accepted into the shelter?
We probably get an extra 10 to 12 calls per day of people that would actually qualify to get into the shelter. We just don't have the room. We had 1 room this morning, and we had 10 calls.
Oh my gosh.
We do it on a first come, first served basis because a waiting list doesn't work. Waiting list, people always think, well, gee, you must have a waiting list. No, because the people will have to go to another shelter. They have to find something.
Right.
They know they can't be living in their cars or on the street with their children, or they will be taken away. So they've got to call Aunt Bessie or call whoever that might be able to put them up for a little while.
So I was going to say, what happens if you can't take them?
If I can't take them, that's what they start doing. They're calling anyone and everyone, all the friends, all the relatives that they've had in the past that they've talked to. They try and at least see if they can buy a little bit of time. And a lot of times it can be very small things that got them to this point. It can be just losing jobs and just not able to work currently. Getting fired from a job can be a real heartbreaking thing. And if you're living paycheck to paycheck, it doesn't take long where your rent's owed, you get evicted, and you have to be moving out.
So then what happens while they're there? Are you offering services like for job? And
we actually have a case manager there as well, so they can help them with all kinds of resources, and we give them a possibility of apartment help. We also get some government funding to be able to help them to be able to maybe get into that apartment with a deposit and rent as a possibility. So we might be able to get a month's rent or a deposit. We might be able to pay back a utility bill. There's lots of ways we can help them. We also give them 3 meals a day, a couple snacks per day while they're there. We don't want them to spend any of their own money while they're at Ozanam Family Shelter. A lot of times they just show up with the clothes on their back, and we're able to provide them clothing as well. St. Vincent de Paul helps us a lot. Aurora helps us a lot with housing. We get a lot of other resources that help us along the way.
why do you think it is there aren't any other facilities like that in the area?
What it is, we're kind of a rarity. There's a lot of men's shelters, and there's a lot of women's shelters at other large cities. We're a population of a little over 100,000 people, and this was started back in '89 because it was a need that was founded by Bob Hayden. And Bob just found after talking to a large group of people that they really wanted to start something because they knew there were so many families that wanted to stay together. And so since '89, we've been around about 35 years now, and it's busier than ever. And that has to do with just the wages just aren't enough to keep people in their apartments and so on like that. It's very difficult.
And where did the name Ozanam come from?
That's from Frederick Ozanam, and he was actually the one that started the St. Vincent de Paul organization.
Okay.
St. Vincent de Paul was the name behind it, but he started the organization, and it was funny, but he was actually going to law school, and he kept seeing families on the street. And so he would see this all the time, and it really bothered him, and he thought they need to have a home. They need to have a place to stay temporarily until they can figure out what their life and what they want to do. And so he started that organization, and he called it the St. Vincent de Paul organization, but Ozanam was really into helping families.
So do you have any kind of plans to expand, to try and take more families?
Well, we would love something like that. That takes a lot of money.
Sure.
So it's really difficult. You know, there's some pretty opportune things that come along, nursing homes, etc. We actually were a nursing home a long time ago that had gone out of business, and that's how we got the building that we're in currently.
Okay.
If something like that came along and it was the right fit, we would possibly look at something like that. But again, it would take some deep pockets in order to get us into that again.
And to relocate?
Well, we'd stay in the same we are, and just add another facility possibly.
Gotcha.
But again, it takes a lot of money.
Well, then what are some ways people can help with your organization?
Yeah, we take donations. The only way we survive is through grants and donations. And so we take regular donations through Ozanam. You can even go on our website or online and catch us, or even just come by or give us a call. Any way, shape, or form, and I'll talk to you about how you can volunteer, or you can also donate. We do get some grants. We get some state money grants as well as other local grants to help with things. But we really could use the funds to keep the place going and operating funds.
What about at Christmas time? Do you look for gifts for the children? Or
yeah,
anything,
and actually, what's funny is I've told people this before, but we get an awful lot of people that will adopt families, and people can do that, and that's fine with us. But kids end up getting a lot of toys.
Right.
We are part of the Toys for Tot program,
that's good.
and so we do get toys from them, as well as a lot of people want to donate toys. And so, really, I always suggest, why don't you bring us like quarter zips, or give us some sweatshirts or something new like that would fit all sizes of children as well as the adults.
Sure.
You know, we have plenty of socks right now. We have plenty of shoes right now. It's just certain things that maybe would be really nice. We take bedding for all of our people that live there. Remember, they have to have bedding, and so we definitely take the sheet sets for twin beds and full-size beds, as well as blankets for both, as well as bath towels. Just think of anything that they would need while they're there, so they don't have to spend their money.
Okay.
You know, we
and
even
these
take
could be used.
food donations.
Like gently
Yeah,
used.
gently used. Bath towels, gently used. Blankets are definitely really a hit.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing.
No problem.
I hope we have a good Christmas for everybody.
Oh, I hope so too. That'd be great. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
Really appreciate it.
Thanks to all of our guests today for sharing with us about some great nonprofits in our area. I'm April Nading. Thanks for watching WNIN Newsmakers.